So early on in the slides, in the intro slides, we talked about the scenario that we're basically going to be following, where we had the three rivers up three creeks, e-commerce company that just started up, is taking orders. They started taking credit cards, and they sell basically a wide variety of things on their site. They've been doing pretty well on their sales and things like that. And then all of a sudden, they started getting calls from some of their customers saying that they were getting notices from their credit card company about fraudulent use and things like that. And those customers said, well, I've only used my credit card at your website. So what's going on? And so they looked into it a little bit, and it turns out that Bob Standley, the system administrator for the Three Rivers Up Three Creeks site and systems, identified some malware on one of their web servers. So now they've called you guys to be fix the problem. What questions would you ask that you feel would help you better prepare for going on site?
You're looking at a vendor's website. Okay, what's their shopping cart application? What are they using as a front end?
Okay.
So you can get a better idea of how they're storing their data locally.
So one of the questions could be just kind of like what applications are they using? Kind of what the.
Because that can lead you to what vulnerabilities are out there for that customer service app, be it like Joomla or somebody else.
Right. And so I can tell you, right, because I know the answers to these questions, right? They are running an application that is basically called NOP Commerce. It is a SQL-backed IIS web application that allows the hosting of their products as well as the processing of their payments and validation of card information and things like that, right? For those of you that aren't aware, and you're probably not aware, NOP Commerce is part of the Windows web app gallery. It's like a free app that you can get, right? But that is basically what they're using for processing. So it's also so it's IIS and MS SQL, right? Now, based on that, what information do you know? What? Vulnerable. All right, fair enough, right? But what do you know based on the fact that it's IIS and MS SQL?
Logs are probably Windows.
Logs. Windows is what I was getting at, but logs are there as well, right? So it is, so what operating system would be a good question as well? And we know that we're running, Windows, right? If you were to ask what operating system we're running, they're actually running Windows 2003 Server. Kind of looking at this from a perspective is that we know we will have logs associated with that. But what's one question you would want to ask them about those logs? Where are they stored? Because that's a good question, right? In this case, they actually don't store their IIS logs locally. They store them on a log server. Now, this is actually unusual practice. And the reason why I did this, right, kind of stepping back from being Bob for a second, is that I wanted you guys to, I didn't want them to be on the disk image, right? I wanted you to ask that question. Because I think that that's an important question, because they won't always be locally. Usually it's the case that IIS logs are saved in both locations. You'll just redirect, right? Because there's no point in not saving them locally, right? Unless for size reasons or whatever. But in this case, I want to make it clear that logs aren't always there where you expect them to be. It's good to ask where are your logs stored, right? So they're stored on a log server. That's important. And you could also ask, perhaps what operating system is running on that log server, right?
Tool, because they may be normalized. With ArcSight, they'll try to normalize them in that format.
Yeah, this is good, right? So the log server actually isn't doing any modification of logs. It's basically just using SMB to share, or Samba to share the data out, right? So it's a share on a CentOS server. Right? So the logs are not local. All right? Anybody have any other questions?
Basically, to determine the magnitude is how many systems are involved.
See, and Bob doesn't know. Bob just knows that antivirus flagged it on this server, on this Windows 2003 server.
Well, the thing I was going to say is that I was asking about the number of systems. Are the web servers load balanced? Are they,
They only have one. Small company.
This application is internet facing, right?
Yep. Yep. This is the web server. Yeah.
Okay. So is there any sort of SSL?
No.
So it's just for the.
Yep.
I think I would ask also their patch level and how often do they patch?
Yep. These are good questions as well, right? And Bob will tell you that they run standard Windows updates whenever they're available, right?
I'll ask for the architecture of the applications. How many server, what they need.
Yep. So these are good questions, right? And I'll give you kind of a quick breakdown of what the environment actually is. The web server actually has two interfaces, right? So it has its network is actually it has an internal network which is accessible by internal hosts within the Up Three Creeks, Three Rivers environment, which is 172.16.131.13, and then it has an external facing address, which is 192.168.51.14, right? So that being said, so this is externally facing, so this is internet facing, right, the external address. The internal address is only accessible by internal hosts.
What other type of network witness devices are surrounding that web server? Firewalls, routers, IDS, snort.
Those we should have those, is what you're saying. Yeah. No, we don't. None of those things.
What's locally installed on the web server? What's its host-based protection?
Just whatever Windows protection is, right?
So Microsoft.
Microsoft's protection, right?
Security Essentials, or?
Yeah. So no external. I'll put external protection, I guess, right? From firewalls or whatever else, and just standard Windows.
So there's no network logging at all on the company's public-facing network?
No, not only for the IIS server itself.
You have to have more questions than for the DBA for the MySQL database.
Yeah, questions about how it's configured and things like that. You're saying, yeah, and some of that is that we'll find out as we look at it more, and we actually look at the setup of it. But suffice it to say, based on these notes here, it's probably unlikely that much security has been placed on this aspect of things, right? Any other questions?
Who has access to the server other than himself, the systems administrator?
Right, that's a good question. So Bob, right? Bob, who's the sysadmin. You also have Veronica, who is basically like the HR kind of accounting person, and she accesses certain files on the server because they also use it to store like packing slips and things like that, so that are exported from the application. So they use that for kind of information about orders that are placed and things like that. So she'll access different components of that.
Well, I think it's important to say who has authorized access, because it is a web server, so technically everybody in the world has access.
Yeah. Okay. This is answering his question, I guess, right? Answering your question and his question, right? But this is authorized access, right? Yeah. But yes, everyone does theoretically have access.
What's a network diagram? What's surrounding it? Is it a DMZ? Is the local internal machines close to it that they could be infected also, where someone could have exploited a local machine to internally exploit the web host server instead of going public facing?
Yeah. So the internal addresses are the internal components are all on this 172 network, and there's something like 5-10 machines maybe that access that internal network from the web server. or to the web server, right? They obviously have internet access as well, right? But not on a separate.
I'm just thinking maybe one of the other internal boxes was popped via black hole exploit, and then something propagated locally, and then it hit the web server on the back end, not from its public-facing port.
The AV flyer didn't give a name of the.
Yeah, you'll find that out, right? I don't know them offhand, but you'll find that out.
So another important thing is the machine on or off.
The machine is still on. They're no longer taking orders, though.
Are they logging database access to see what users are executing which SQL commands?
It's going to be standard SQL logging. I don't know if that logs commands that are done, but it'll log access for sure. This is me saying from as a forensic investigator, I don't know exactly what standard logging is, but that's what they're using. But these are held local, right? These aren't saved elsewhere. So anything else that they want to ask or point out?
I guess with that, does the box have any other purposes but the web front end?
Yes. It also acts as basically a file server in a sense for for packing slips and order forms and stuff like that are used by Veronica, right? So that is a good question. So these are going to be packing, order forms, things like that, right? So it is used to store some data, right? All right, I think we'll stop there just because for time purposes, right? Because there's probably a lot more questions that we could get into. But I think these are some of kind of the important points that you'd want to kind of discuss, right? Number one, we're talking about things like what the server is, what applications are running on it. Logs, you've asked where logs are and what kind of logs that they have, as well as network interfaces and how access is done to that system, who has access to that system, who has authorized access to that system. What type of patching that they're doing or updates, antivirus that they have in place, as well as other host-based protection and network-based protection. You can see in this case that they don't have a lot, right? They haven't done an incredibly good job of securing their systems, but that's often the case in victim systems, right? Is they haven't done what should be done, right? It's easy to say what should be done or what you should have done, but they haven't done that, right? So now it's your job to kind of figure out what occurred, how did it occur, and how can we mitigate it later on.